This is a quick revision video on solving one-step equations. Let's start with the first one. X minus 7 equals 8. We need to solve this equation. Now solve means to work out the value of the unknown. In this case, work out what x must be. So something minus 7 gives us 8. Now you might be able to work this out in your head, but I'm going to show you a method that's quite powerful and that will work for much harder equations. What we need to do is look at the quantities we've got and try to get an x on its own on one side of the equation. Now at the moment we've got an x on the left, but we have a problem because 7 is being subtracted from it. But we can undo that by adding 7. Now if I do that, what I end up with is just x. All I'm doing is considering the left-hand side of the equation. Ignore everything on the right for now. If I had x minus 7, but then add 7, I get just x. However, because an equation is meant to show that the two sides are perfectly equal and balanced, if I add 7 to the left side, I also have to add 7 to the right side to keep the equation balanced. And if I do that, I get x equals 15. 8 plus 7 gives me the 15. Now let's just test, does this work? If x is 15, then 15 minus 7 should give us 8. And it does. So the answer is 15. And we write it as follows. X equals 15. We have solved the equation. We have found out what x should be. Let's have a look at question B. So this was A. Let's move on to B. We've got x plus 9 equals 3. What I need to do here is subtract 9 off the left-hand side, and that will give me just x. Now to keep this equation balanced, I also need to subtract 9 off the right-hand side, and that means x equals 3 minus 9. 3 minus 9 is negative 6. And again, we can test our answer. If x is negative 6, then negative 6 plus 9 should give us 3. Negative 6 plus 9 does indeed give us 3, so we know this is correct. Let's have a look at question C. We have 12 equals 18 plus x. Now don't be put off by the fact that the x is on the right hand side of the equation. This is still a perfectly valid equation. What we want to do is, remember, try to get this x on its own. So at the moment we've got an x with 18 added onto it. We can therefore subtract 18 and that will get us back to x. So we have x on the right hand side. Now, to keep this equation balanced, we need to subtract 18 from the left-hand side as well. So we have 12 minus 18, and this gives us negative 6. So x equals negative 6 is the solution to this equation as well. Moving on to part D, we've got to solve 12 equals 5x. Now remember what 5x actually means. It means 5 multiplied by x. Now we want to know what x is. So how do we go from 5 times x to just x? Well, what we need to do is divide by 5. If you think about it, 5 times x divided by 5 just gets us back to x. And that's what we want. So we have x on the right hand side. Now to keep this equation balanced, we have to do the same thing to the left as we did to the right. And that means we need to do 12 divided by 5. Now 12 divided by 5 is simply 12 fifths. And there we have it, x equals 12 fifths. Don't be afraid of fractions. If you want to, you can convert this into a mixed number. In this case, it would be 2 and 2 fifths, or you could write it as a decimal. That would be 2.4. Question E is almost exactly the same, except we have a negative there. So we're saying negative 12 equals 5x. Pause the video and see if you can have a go at this one for yourself. Well, here's what you should have got. It would have looked almost exactly the same as D, except instead of having 12 equals 5x, we had negative 12 equals 5x. But we still needed to divide the right-hand side by 5 to turn the 5x into x. And that means we had to divide the left-hand side by 5. And negative 12 divided by 5 would simply give us negative 12 fifths. So the solution here would be x equals negative 12 fifths. Or you could say it was negative 2 2/5 or negative 2.4. Finally, let's have a look at F. This time we're solving negative 12 equals x over 2. Now remember what this means. This means divided by. I've already used it to mean divided by up here. So what we've got here is actually x divided by 2, and that gives us negative 12. Now how do we undo division by 2? What is the inverse? Well, what we need to do is multiply by 2. If we multiply x divided by 2, we just get back to x. Think about it. X divided by 2 times 2. Yep, that gives us x. And that equals, well, remember what we have to do here. Because we multiplied the right-hand side by 2, we also have to multiply the left-hand side by 2. And negative 12 times 2 is negative 24. So x equals negative 24.